All right, today we're tackling, just a small topic, the entire universe. Yep, we're about to squeeze 13.8 billion years of chaos, creation, and straight-up catastrophe into just a few minutes. So you're going to want to buckle up. This is the history of, well, everything.
So here's the thing. It's the ultimate question, right? The laws of physics tell us that the Big Bang should have created equal amounts of matter and its evil twin, antimatter. And when those two meet, they annihilate each other, leaving behind absolutely nothing, a totally empty void. But, look around. That is clearly not what happened. So how in the world did we get from an empty universe to all this? It all started with the Big Bang. And when I say it started, I mean it really started. In less than a second, space itself just inflated. It went from something smaller than an atom to, well, astronomically huge. And here's the really crazy part. The basic forces of the universe were perfectly, and I mean perfectly balanced. If gravity had been just a teeny tiny bit stronger, the whole show would have collapsed back on itself. A tiny bit weaker? Forget about it. Galaxies would have never even formed. It was a complete cosmic longshot from the very first second.
Now, the early universe was pure chaos, but man, was it productive. This wasn't some slow, gentle process. It was like a cosmic factory floor going at full blast, churning out billions and billions of galaxies. And these galaxies were packed with these first-generation stars that burned super hot, lived fast, and died young in these massive explosions we call supernovas. Those explosions forged all the heavier stuff. We're talking the carbon in your body, the oxygen you're breathing, the iron in your blood, and then just scattered it all across space. Then gravity got to work, kind of like a cosmic sculptor, smashing all that stardust together to make new stars and, eventually, planets.
And one of those planets that gravity sculpted was our very own early Earth. But let's just say it had a really rough first day. Not long after it formed, another huge, planet-sized thing came along and just slammed right into it. The result was a complete and utter mess. But out of that wreckage, our moon was formed. It was a fortunate disaster that stabilized our planet's wobble and gave us the tides. Pretty lucky, huh? So how do you turn a hot, molten rock into a place that can support life? Well, it's kind of like following a cosmic recipe. First, you need volcanoes, millions of them, all pumping out gases to create a basic atmosphere. Think of it like a gassy blanket, keeping the planet from getting too hot or too cold. Next, you need a ton of water, which probably got here by icy comets smacking into us for millions of years. And finally, you mix in a chemical cocktail of methane, ammonia, and hydrogen. And that creates the famous primordial soup, where our story really kicks off. And floating around in that chemical soup, something incredible happened. The basic, fundamental building blocks of life, these things called amino acids, they just formed. But here is the key, and this is a big one. Just because you have flour, sugar, and eggs doesn't mean you have a cake, right? These were just the raw ingredients. The jump from this chemical stew to the first actual living thing is still one of the biggest mysteries in all of science. And this is exactly why it's such a mystery. We love to think of the first life as simple, but that's just not true, not even close. The very first single-celled organism was staggeringly complex. This quote puts it perfectly. It's like an entire, bustling city packed into a space so small you can't even see it. Just think about that for a second. Inside that one cell, you've got a whole infrastructure. There are transport networks moving supplies, little power plants generating energy, and factories building proteins. And right in the middle, there's a central database, the DNA, that holds the complete blueprint to build and replicate the entire operation. All of this unbelievably complex machinery had to exist and work together from the very start. It's just mind-boggling. Okay, so after that absolutely incredible start, things, well, they slowed way down. For billions of years, life on Earth was pretty much just these single-celled organisms hanging out. It was a super stable, but let's be honest, not a very exciting time in our planet's history. But all of that was about to change.
And then, all of a sudden, in what's basically a blink of an eye, geologically speaking, life went completely wild. We call it the Cambrian explosion, and it was just this burst of evolutionary creativity. All kinds of bizarre, complex creatures just appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. We're talking about creatures with 5 eyes, things with weird armored bodies, seriously, stuff that looks like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
The Cambrian explosion wasn't just a one-and-done event. It totally kicked off an evolutionary arms race. Life went into overdrive. You had creatures developing shells, claws, complex eyes. Life wasn't just floating around anymore. It was actively competing, hunting, and evolving, filling every single corner of the oceans. But you know the saying, what goes up must come down. Just as life was really hitting its stride, disaster struck. See, the story of life on Earth isn't this nice, straight line of progress. It's a story of incredible booms, followed by devastating busts. And the first of several mass extinctions came along and wiped out a huge chunk of all that new, wonderful life. And this basically set the rhythm for the next few 100 million years, this relentless cycle of booms and busts. Life would just explode with diversity. You get fish dominating the seas, plants finally conquering the land. Then a catastrophe would strike, wiping the slate almost completely clean. But life is resilient. Out of the ashes, new forms would rise up: sharks, amphibians, giant insects, only for another disaster to come along and knock them down. It's a brutal but powerful story of creation and destruction, over and over again.
And then came the biggest disaster of them all, the big one. Just try to picture this. A bunch of volcanoes in what is now Siberia. They start erupting, and they don't stop. They just keep going, pouring lava and toxic gas into the atmosphere for 1 million straight years. This was an extinction event on a scale the planet had never, ever seen. The result was something scientists call the Great Dying. And they're not kidding. 90% of all species on Earth gone, vanished. It's the absolute closest life has ever come to being completely snuffed out. The planet was basically a toxic wasteland. But somewhere, in the deepest oceans or hidden corners of the world, a few tough survivors managed to hang on, setting the stage for the next incredible act. So while life was trying to recover from this near-total wipeout, the stage itself was literally shifting. The giant supercontinent of Pangaea started to break apart, and all the continents we know today began drifting toward their current spots. This created all new environments, new oceans, and new opportunities for whatever survived.
So who were the big winners in this brand new world? You guessed it, the dinosaurs. They rose from the ashes of that great extinction to become the undisputed rulers of the planet for over 150 million years. Oh, and just to make things a little more interesting, the world also got its first blood-sucking insects around this time. So that's fun. But that long, long reign of the dinosaurs came to a very sudden and very dramatic end. A rock the size of a mountain slammed into the planet, kicking off a global winter that wiped them out. For the giant reptiles, it was literally the end of the world. But for a group of small, furry creatures that had been hiding in the shadows, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. With the dinosaurs gone, mammals just exploded into this newly empty world, evolving into primates, whales, bats, and, eventually us. Think about this. The dinosaurs ruled for 150 million years. The time between them going extinct and modern humans showing up, only 66 million years. In the grand, epic story of the universe, our entire journey from these tiny shrew-like mammals to us right now, it all happened in a cosmic blink of an eye. And what was the secret sauce for our rapid rise? This right here, our brains. Now, you might think the human brain is just way bigger than our ape relatives. But look, it's only a little bit bigger. The real game changer wasn't the size, it was the complexity. It was the wiring. The way our brain is wired is a world apart, and it unlocked abilities that no other creature had. That little difference in wiring, it unlocks everything. It's why we can plan for the future, why we can cooperate with millions of strangers, and why we can build on the knowledge of generations before us. It's what lets us build cities and write symphonies, and, most remarkably of all, it's what allows us to do what we are doing right this very second, to look back across 13.8 billion years of cosmic history and actually begin to understand our place in all of it. Which brings us to the end of our ridiculously fast tour, from the Big Bang through exploding stars, devastating mass extinctions, and asteroid impacts. An unbroken chain of events of pure chance and chaos has led to this moment, to a species that can look back at all of it and comprehend it. The journey to get here was monumental. The question now is, where do we go from here?